check out the link in the description for cheap games. Hey guys, Jack here, and in this video we'll be taking another trip down memory lane just a couple of days before we finally see live gameplay of BF1. And in this video we'll be focusing on Lawrence of Arabia, who by all accounts we will see in the game. Pre-order bonuses have confirmed he's getting his own booster pack for the game, which contains the following items: a horse, Lawrence of Arabia's Black Stallion, obviously that's some sort of black horse skin that you can equip, his weapon skin for the SMLE, otherwise known as the Lee Enfield rifle, his Jambaya, this is an interesting looking melee weapon, and of course his emblem, but I don't think we really know what that looks like yet. I digress. So who was this man? What does he have to do with Battlefield 1 and of course World War 1? Well, you'd be forgiven for thinking that Lawrence of Arabia was born in the Middle East, but he was in fact British, and it was in his liaison role during the Sinai and Palestine campaign and the Arab revolt against the Ottoman Empire that earned him his name, Lawrence of Arabia. Don't worry though, we will get into that in a second. He's an extremely popular character in history, and he's had many books and even films portraying his story. So Lawrence of Arabia's real name is Thomas Edward Lawrence, and he was born in 1888 in North Wales. He studied at Oxford University, and in 1909 he visited Syria and Palestine before later joining an archaeological dig in Syria, where he stayed until 1914. And there he learned how to speak and write Arabic and became sympathetic to the native Arabs who'd lived under Turkish rule for centuries. At the time, the Turkish Empire was also called the Ottoman Empire. Now, when the war broke out, Lawrence was a university postgraduate and he travelled for many years within the Ottoman Empire. In October of 1914, and after the outbreak and effects of the war, he enlisted in the British Army and he was posted in the intelligence staff in Cairo, Egypt. And so in 1916 the Arab revolt would start against Turkey, or the Ottoman Empire at the time, who happened to be an ally of Germany, and it was the British who'd done everything they could to encourage the revolt. It really benefited them a lot, so it made sense. Lawrence would become the liaison officer and advisor to Emir Faisal, who was the son of the revolt's leader Sharif Hussein of Mecca. Now, what made Lawrence stand out was his tactical ability. His forces attacked Turkish communications and supply routes, taking down thousands of Turkish troops in the process thanks to his tactics and his influential theories of guerrilla warfare. Lawrence's goal was to help the Arabs achieve post-war self-government, and he would later lobby for Arab independence, but not before the Arab forces won their first major victory in June 1917. The Arab forces managed to seize Aqaba, which is a coastal city of Jordan, which also happened to be a strategically important Red Sea port. They carried on up north, and by 1918 they had control over Damascus in Syria. Lawrence was involved in the build-up to the capture of Damascus, but he was not present for the city's formal surrender, and after that he was instrumental in creating a provisional Arab government, with Faisal being king in a newly liberated Damascus, which he believed could be the capital city of an Arab state. In 1920 though, Faisal's rule came to a pretty abrupt end when the French forces of General Gouraud entered Damascus, all but destroying Lawrence's dream of an independent Arabia. France and Great Britain had decided to divide the Arab territories of the Ottoman Empire amongst themselves. When the war was over, Lawrence returned to London as a full colonel and worked for the Foreign Office. He attended the Paris Peace Conference to try and lobby for Arab independence again as a member of Faisal's delegation. In 1921 he then became advisor to none other than Winston Churchill, but because of his high profile he eventually resigned in 1922 and he joined the RAF, the Royal Air Force. For the rest of the 1920s and early 1930s he served in the RAF and the Tank Corps, but not under his real name. He instead would use an alias for anonymity, but this wouldn't stop the press from still following his story. This guy was very famous and recognisable. Sadly, he died in a motorcycle accident in May 1935, only a few days after leaving the RAF. However, one of the doctors who was overseeing his health in hospital went on to research and study unnecessary loss of life caused by motorcycle accidents, and eventually led to the use of crash helmets for military and civilians. Ultimately, Lawrence's legacy was moulded by his hard work in the Middle East. Apparently, before he'd arrived, the British campaign there had become bogged down and at a standstill, but he got there, he turned things around, made friends with the locals, gained the respect of the Arabs, and pushed himself further than most men or women would dare to. And that's all for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this look at Lawrence of Arabia. I think we'll definitely be seeing him in BF1, and I'd recommend watching the 1962 movie starring Peter O'Toole and Alec Guinness. It did win several awards upon its release, and it's deemed as culturally, historically and aesthetically significant. Definitely a classic you should put under your belt. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, a thumbs down. Thank you for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.